from Mr. Morton's Barmy Book of Bonkers Bits.
Hello, I'm Mr. Morton and welcome to Mr. Morton's Barmy Book of Bonkers Bits. Say, have you ever heard the story about Maya and the emergency spoon? No? Well, you see, if Maya Peck was happy, she was very happy. And if she was cross, she was very cross. But if she was upset, everybody knew about it. Because you see, Maya did not do upset quietly. She did it properly. With force. With commitment. With the sort of feeling that suggested the whole house might have to sit down for a minute afterwards. Now, luckily, for many years, there'd been a system. A very good system. A system so reliable that Mum trusted it almost as much as she trusted plasters and tea towels. You see, when Maya got upset, Mum simply opened the kitchen cupboard, took out the peanut butter, dipped in a spoon, and handed it over. 1 spoonful. That was all it took. Not on toast, not in a sandwich, but on a spoon. Maya would simply put it in her mouth, close her eyes, and wait. The peanut butter didn't make bad things disappear, it just made everything feel less enormous. So if her drawing did tear, spoon. If her socks felt wrong, spoon. And if her brother Dylan hummed too near her face, breathed too loudly, or touched her jigsaw when he clearly had not been invited to, spoon. At school, however, there was a problem. School had no kitchen cupboard. School had no mum. School had Mrs. Blunt. So on difficult days, Maya took a tiny screw-top container in her lunchbox, and inside it was her school emergency peanut butter. 1 spoonful, 1 calm-down remedy, 1 rescue. And that was why, on this particular Tuesday, something dreadful happened. Mrs. Blunt stood at the front of the class and said, "You all should know that from tomorrow, St. Edmund's Junior School will be completely nut-free." There was a rustle all around the room. Ravi put up his hands. "Miss, can I still have my chocolate biscuits?" "Yes," said Mrs. Blunt. Olive put up her hand. "Miss, can we still bring cheese strings?" "Yes." Maya put up her hand slowly. "Do you mean," she said, "that there can't be any peanut butter at all?" "That's right, Maya." Maya stared at her. Not at all? Not even a tiny emergency bit? Mrs. Blunt went on talking about allergies and safety and looking after one another, which were all important things, of course, but Maya could hardly hear any of it. All that she could think of was, what about the spoon? Tomorrow there might be handwriting. There might be maths. There might be one of those oops moments that is not an accident at all. Or Olive might suddenly decide to spend break with one of the terrible twins from year 4. And if any of that happened, there was no peanut butter. By the time Maya got home, she was in a state. She came through the front door, dropped 1 shoe in the hall, and kicked the other one halfway up the stairs. Maya marched straight into the kitchen. And there, in the cupboard, right where it always was, sat the peanut butter jar. Maya took it out with both hands. She hugged it tightly against her chest, as though it was boarding a ship and sailing to a distant land forever. "Oh, peanut butter," she whispered. "I'll never see you again." From the doorway, her little brother Dylan said, "Oh, that seems unlikely. It lives here." Dylan was 7, full of bad ideas, and wearing his school tie round his head like a bandana. No one knew why. Not even Dylan. "School has gone nut-free, Dylan," said Maya. "No peanut butter." "No peanut butter." "Not even on sandwiches?" "No." "Not even on toast?" "No." "Not even on a spoon?" "Especially not on a spoon." Dylan put one hand on the table. "This is serious." "I know," said Maya, as she set the jar down with great care. Then an idea formed, and she started opening the cupboards. "We need a replacement." "Oh, this is going to be excellent," said Dylan. And that was how the kitchen experiments began. The first one was porridge. Maya liked the look of it at once. "It's thick," she said. "That's promising." Dylan peered into the bowl. "Oh, looks like wall filler." She scooped up a spoonful and put it in her mouth. And for 1 second, Nothing happened. But then her eyes widened and her mouth stopped working. She clapped a hand over it and made a trapped, furious sound like a goose trying to swear. Dylan stared in confusion. "Maya?" She pointed wildly at her own face, then at the bowl, and then at the ceiling, and back at the bowl. Dylan took a step backwards. "Oh dear, your mouth's gone all stiff." Maya glared at him so fiercely that he had the good sense not to continue. Maya struggled and squirmed, and at last she swallowed the porridge down with enormous effort and gasped, "It's glue itself to the roof of my mouth." The second experiment was applesauce with cinnamon, because Dylan said it smelled calming. Maya took a spoonful. She frowned. Not bad. Actually, not bad at all. Then Dylan, who should never be trusted with a nearly successful idea, said, "Do you know what? It needs sparkle." And he poured in fizzy lemonade. The spoon foamed, and Maya yelped. And then the bowl frothed up at once and started spilling over the sides. It slithered down the cupboard door. It got onto Maya's fingers and onto Dylan's sleeve. Then a blob landed on the floor and the cat leapt 3 feet into the air. Dylan looked up and stared at him. "I think that's a no." The third experiment was toast dust. This, again, was Dylan's idea, which should have been warning enough. "You like toast? So if we make tiny toast, that's basically peanut butter." "That's not how food works, Dylan." "I don't know, it might be." So they burnt 2 slices of bread until they were 1 shade away from becoming charcoal, and they scraped them into black crumbs and piled the crumbs onto a spoon. Dylan whispered, "Ready?" And Maya put the spoon into her mouth. And at once, she coughed and then sneezed and then coughed again so hard that a cloud of toast dust exploded all over both of them. For a moment, Dylan vanished completely inside it. But when the dust cleared, Maya looked at Dylan, and Dylan looked at Maya. Their faces were golden brown, with darker bits stuck all over them. Dylan blinked. "Maya," he said in awe, "we look like chicken nuggets." Maya opened her mouth to answer, then sneezed again and blasted a fresh puff of toast all over the fruit bowl. By now, the kitchen had stopped looking like a kitchen and had started looking something like the fire brigade might want photographs of. There were oats on the floor, fizzy apple sauce creeping down the cupboard, toast dust on the fridge, toast dust on Dylan's eyebrows. Maya wiped her face with the back of her hand and made everything worse. "This is not going well," she said. "This is going brilliantly." Well, then came the sticky experiments. Not 1 sticky experiment, but 3. Because Dylan found the honey, then the syrup, then the jam. And it somehow seemed like a brilliant idea to combine them. So Maya mixed the honey, the syrup, and the jam into 1 shining, wobbling spoonful. She took 1 cautious lick, then another, and then nodded slowly. It's horrible," she said. "But maybe horrible in a useful—" And at that exact moment, the spoon slipped from her fingers, flipped through the air, and smacked itself onto the underside of the cooker hood. The spoon hung there. A blob of jammy syrup trembled at the edge and dropped onto Dylan's bandana. Then, before Maya could stop him, he climbed onto a chair and reached for the spoon. He got hold of it, and the spoon came free. But not all of Dylan did. His fingers stuck to the hood, then his sleeve, and then, somehow, 1 sock. There was a terrible, horrible, sliding, sticky noise, and Maya watched in horror as Dylan ended up dangling from the cooker hood by 1 hand and half a sleeve like a giant jammy wall walker. There he hung, kicking gently, the spoon still in his hand. "Maya," he said with astonishing calm, "I might live up here now." Maya put both hands over her face. "How have you done that?" She grabbed him round the middle and pulled. Nothing. So she pulled harder, and there was a stretchy noise, and 1 shoe came off. Dylan, on the other hand, just swung slightly. This," he said, "is rather humiliating." Eventually, Maya got him down by wrapping his hand in a tea towel and yanking him with both arms while he pushed off the cupboard with his feet. They landed in a heap on the floor, and the spoon hit the tiles. The jam hit Maya's elbow, and Dylan lay on his back panting. All in all," he said, "I think that one actually had potential." By now, Maya was desperate. Dylan went to the fridge. "The back shelf," he said in a hushed voice. Maya looked over. There, lurking behind the milk, were Dad's things. Things nobody else in the house ever chose on purpose. A tub of beetroot hummus. A little sausage of liverwurst. Something in a jar that appeared to be onions floating in a dark and threatening liquid. "What even is that?" said Maya. Dylan held it up to the light. Dad food. Cream cheese, pickle juice, the last spoonful of yogurt, a packet of crushed up crackers, half a squashed banana, the beetroot hummus, the liverwurst, a squirt of mustard, a splash of pickle juice, and at this point, Dylan said, "What about this onion swamp?" And Maya, who'd lost all perspective, said, "Fine, throw it in." Soon, the biggest bowl in the kitchen was full of thick, lumpy, pink-brown sludge that smelt like a sandwich that had been left alone with its own thoughts for too long. The two of them stood over it, quiet and silent. "It does look powerful." Maya took a spoon and scooped some up. She raised the spoon. "Maya, if that works, I'll be amazed." "If it doesn't," said Maya, "I may have to move schools." She brought the spoon closer to her mouth and was just bare millimeters from putting it inside when at that exact moment, Mum came in. She stopped dead in the doorway. She took in the scene. The bowls, the crumbs, the fizz drying on the cupboard, the spoon still stuck to the cooker hood by jam, the tea towel hanging from the handle, Dylan with toast dust in his eyebrows and one sock missing, Maya with hair sticking up, face smudged brown, and a spoonful of pink-brown horror halfway to her mouth. But then Mum noticed the peanut butter jar, still on the table, still unopened. Mum blinked, and then she quietly said, "Why do you both look like badly assembled food?" Nobody answered. Dylan pointed at Maya's face. "We were chicken nuggets earlier, Mum." Maya lowered the spoon. "Mum, school's gone nut-free," she said. "I can't take peanut butter anymore. And I need a replacement, and nothing works." Mum took a closer look at the bowl, then at the cupboard, then at Dylan's sticky sleeve, then at the clock, which now had porridge on it, jammed down one side, and a crumb hanging from the number 8. But then she looked at Maya. "Maya, have you had any peanut butter?" she asked. "No." "So, you've been in here all this time, with all this going on, and you haven't touched it?" Maya looked at the jar, and then at her hands. Sticky, yes. Toasty, yes. One sleeve dotted with purple-brown sludge, and her hair behaving in a way hair ought not to. But she was not crying. She was not shouting. She was not one breath away from a household emergency. Things had gone wrong, really wrong. And yet, here she was, still standing, still coping. Mum leaned against the doorframe. "You know," she said, "this is a bit like your dummy." "My dummy?" "Yes. When you were little, you were convinced you needed it. Absolutely convinced. But then one day, you didn't." Dylan folded his arms. "So, you've grown up, is that it?" Mum smiled. "Perhaps the spoon helped," she said. "And perhaps now, you've learnt you can cope without needing it quite so much. But if I've grown out of needing peanut butter on a spoon for emergencies, can I still have peanut butter on the spoon for fun?" Mum paused and then laughed. "Yes," she said. "I think that can be arranged." And together they all cleaned up the kitchen and put away all the mess without any tantrums or anyone getting upset or any need for peanut butter. And when they were done, they all cooked some crumpets and smothered them with peanut butter. And from that day forward, Maya only needed peanut butter, just for fun. And that's the story about Maya and the emergency spoon. I wonder what you do when you get upset. Anyway, if you've liked this story, make sure you visit mrmortonsbarmybook.com where you can see all the other stories, and make sure you're subscribed so you know when my next one's coming out. I've been Mr. Morton, and you've been listening. Bye!
Thanks for joining Mr. Morton in his brilliantly barmy bonkers book. Spread the word to your wonderfully wacky friends. Like this episode, leave a comment, visit MrMortonsBarmyBook.com. And remember, the world needs more magnificent man.